Good day, my dear students. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the ancient Germanic tribes. Yes. So let's start about the decline of Rome. Upon the decline of Roman imperial power, Germanic tribes from the east took over vast lands once ruled from Rome. After a long period of growth, development, and sometimes darkness, the barbarian came of age. Armed with a religion from the Mid-East, Roman law, and the governmental organization, Greek art, and philosophy, the descendants of the barbarians would spread their culture all over the globe. Yet for all the great art, music, philosophy, and the egalitarian writings about the rights of man, there is a deep strain of violence which has permeated Western civilization, and it has existed from the birth of the West. The decline of Rome. Only the West has made war on such a grand scale all over the world and with a destructiveness unmatched by any other people. It's only recently that the West has managed to refrain from total war. It was born from war, has lived and thrived by war, yet in order to survive, it must now abandon total war. The Huns. The Huns, who had set in motion this vast movement of peoples, moved westward from the center they had established on the plains of Hungary. Both the Romans and the Germans were terrified of the savage race, whose only interest was plunder and bloodshed. Joining momentarily together in 451, the Romans and the Visigoths defeated the Hun leader, Attila, at the Battle of Chalons, and within a couple of years the Huns had withdrawn from Europe. The disappearance, however, only facilitated the entry into the empire of several more Germanic tribes, the Ostrogoths, the Franks, and the Anglo-Saxons, Hadrian's Wall, and the Celts. The purpose of great defense walls of the Roman Empire, the lines that ran across central Germany, Hadrian's Wall in England, and the fortifications along the Danube, and also of most campaigns fought in Europe from the time of Augustus had been to protect the area of civilization within the empire from the barbarians outside. In Scotland and Ireland, the barbarians were a Celtic, an artistic, warlike, and a highly emotional people, who for several centuries had been withdrawing ever further northwards to the coastal rings of northwestern Europe from the lands they had once held in France and Germany. The German tribes also continued between the Rhine-Danube frontier, Scandinavia, and the Black Sea, lived the Germanic tribes. In spite of the danger they represented to the empire, these fair-haired warriors, dressed in skins and draped in gold armbands and a chain, fascinated the urbanized Romans. Tacitus claimed to see in them a noble simplicity and the vigor that, as it had been lost by the effete Roman of our day. The way of life of all the Germanic tribes, at least before the influence of Rome affected those closest to the empire, was fairly similar. They had begun to give up nomadic life and to settle in small village communities separated from each other by the forest. Their political institutions were primitive but important for the future. So, in this map, you can see the German Empire. The Merciless, Gaul, Roman, this Greece, on Sahel, Pisidia, yes. So it's the map of the Germanic tribes. Germanic tribes count. The law was administered through a tribal court called the Moot, in which all the warriors of the community judged complaints brought by one member of the tribe against another. The court usually settled the matter either by allowing the defendant to take an oath of innocence, provided he was supported by friends who swore to his reliability, or by putting the defendant to order. In this case, he might be made to work through fire. His innocence, his wounds would begin to heal in a few days. Germanic tribes count. The chief was chosen by the warriors for his fitness to lead them in war. The warriors in turn swore personal allegiance to the chief and they became members of his communities, a group of warring companions. Elective monarchy was thus accompanied by the principle of personal loyalty to one's lord, which became one of the primary social bonds in medieval European society. Beyond these facts, little is known about the German tribes before they began to press on the weakening Roman Empire in the late 4th century. Visigoths, the first Germanic people to penetrate the frontiers of the empire were the West Goths, or Visigoths. The Goths had originally lived in southern Scandinavia and around the Baltic, but moving south in the 2nd century they had split into two groups: the East Goths, or Ostrogoths, who had remained in southern Russia, fleeing over the land as an army of conquerors, and the West Goths, or Visigoths, who drove the Romans out of Dacia, modern Romania. The Goths were receptive to Romans' ways of life, developed the taste for Roman lecturers, and adopted the Arian form of Christianity. Many were recruited into the Roman army and even took offices of state in Constantinople itself. Thus, when the westward drive of a Mongolian people, called the Huns, from the steppes of Russia overwhelmed the Ostrogoths, the imperial balance of Constantinople was unwilling to permit the Visigoths to move into the empire in 376 to defend its Danube frontier, apparently outraged at the treatment they had received from imperial officials. The Visigoths took up arms against the Empire, was defeated and killed at the Battle of Adrianople in 378. The successor Theodosius replaced the Visigoths with gifts of land and the payments of tribute, and they, in return, furnished recruits to the imperial army. Visigoths. Relations with the Visigoths deteriorated after the death of Theodosius I in 395, when the empire was divided again between his two sons, Arcadius, who inherited the Eastern Roman Empire, and Honorius, who inherited the Western Roman Empire. Furious at the conditions of military service imposed on his people, Alaric and the leader of the Visigoths led his troops against Constantinople in 395, but was persuaded to divert his army into Greece. Capturing Athens, Alaric, after declaring himself king of the Visigoths, led them north into Illyricum. Little Honorius sought seclusion and luxury in the city of the Rabbin, which was well protected by broad marches, leaving his regent, the Vandal Soldier, to deal with Alaric invasion of Italy after 403. Still, he used strategic cunning as well as bribery to keep the Visigoths away from Rome. But Alaric was able to besiege and finally, in August 410, to capture and sack Rome. It was 800 years since a foreign invader had broken through the walls of Rome. The world sinks into run, wrote Rome. Yes, but shameful to say, our sins still live in the flourish. The renowned city, the capital of the Roman Empire, is swallowed up in one tremendous fire, and there is no part of the earth where Romans are not in exile. Fortunately, Jerome was exaggerating. Few people were killed, the house of nobles were plundered. The forum was set ablaze, but all the churches were spared. Alaric even organized a fine procession to St. Peter's to present the treasures he had saved for the Pope. Alaric died shortly afterwards, and the river was temporarily diverted to provide a secure grave for him in its bed. The Visigoths then moved on to southern France and Spain, where the final settlers. Also, they were tolerant of the Catholic worship in the areas they controlled. They were isolated from the Latin population for almost 2/3 by their refusal to give up a reason. They were finally converted towards the end of the 6th century. The Vandals. Even before the Goths sacked Rome, another Germanic tribe, the Vandals, had passed in the empire of the Rhine. Crossing France, they settled for a short while in Spain, and from which the Visigoths expelled them. The Vandals then crossed the Straits of Gibraltar and conquered the rich province of North Africa, built themselves a fleet in 455, and sacked Rome with greater ruins than the Visigoths. So they chose the treasures from the emperor's places and the palaces and on Palatine Hill and the tile from the roofs of the temples, and returned with the spoil to the new capital of Carthage. As Arian Christians, they persecuted the Catholic subjects, and thus, as a result of internal dissensions, were so weakened that they fell into defeat. The armies of the East, Roman Emperor Justinus, in 533. The Ostrogoths. Once they had broken loose from Han control, the Ostrogoths moved slowly toward northern Italy. Their leader was Theodoric, one of the most talented leaders of all Germanic peoples. He had spent 10 years in Constantinople as hostage, knew both Latin and Greek, and had developed a profound admiration for the ancient civilization he had been forcibly acquainted with. He hadn't, however, lost his tribal secrets, for out conquering most of the northern Italy. He demonstrated his ability with the broadsword by slicing in two his rival for control of Italy and his ruthlessness for exterminating family. Theodoric then showed more constructive statesmanship. From 493 till his death in 526, he governed Italy and a large part of the Balkans as the regent of the Empire in Constantinople, and as king of the Goths, establishing both in title and in actually a sensible policy of racial coexistence. The Goths took 1/3 of the land and houses and all military duties. The Romans kept the rest and devoted themselves to peaceful pursuits. Gothic law applied to Goths and the Roman law to Romans. So, although Theodoric was an Arian Christian, he tolerated the Catholic religion, and even Jewish and the other faiths. So thank you for attention. Goodbye.